Mental Health Day serves as a powerful reminder that there is no health without mental health. I think we all know that, especially working with the National Action Network and serving in the community and in the movement. This year's campaign focuses on the urgent need to support the mental health and psychosocial needs of people affected by humanitarian emergencies. And Dr. Jessie Fields is going to jump into all of that and break that down. But we thought it was important to talk about, well, basically today's issue, why it's important, is mental health. And tomorrow is George Floyd's birthday. So we wanted to combine the issues and talk about why mental health, how it impacts social justice activists, those in the movement, because it's not really talked about. It's kind of just, you just kind of muddle over it. So that's why we're talking about that tonight. And we all know Dr. Jessie Fields. She started with my father, Reverend Al Sharpton, with the National Action Network since I was a little girl. She does important work in the community. We see her every Saturday. You can hear her What's on Your Mind segment. So she does work all over the nation, actually. I don't want to limit her to a local activist, but we're going to hear more from her later. But I just wanted to set the tone of why we're huddling up on this issue specifically tonight. Also tomorrow, I just want to send a special prayers and love to the Floyd family. We all know that Terrence Floyd and We Are Floyd organization are personal members of the huddle, but the entire Floyd family are all basically second family to the National Action Network. Reverend Al Sharpton speaks to all of them all the time. And we just want to send them prayers because it does not get easier. This journey has been difficult and we are still fighting for justice. Yes, there has been small steps as far as accountability, but there has not been accountability for the life of George Floyd. The George Floyd legislation has not been passed and police reform has not changed. So we definitely want to make sure that we send love and prayers to that family tomorrow. Of course, people have already forgotten about George Floyd and it's tainted. The day is now tainted because of Charlie Kirk. But Patrice is going to jump into that for our Did You Know in regards to that topic. We're going to do 2 Did You Know articles tonight, and then we're going to jump into our presentation. Dominique, you want to start off with our action alerts and announcements? Can I turn it over to you?
Yes, that's fine. Good evening, everyone. Action alerts. We had a great Triumph Awards. It was another great success on this past Monday night. It all went down at Jazz at Lincoln Center as Reverend Sharpton and National Action Network presented yet another successful Triumph Awards. It was our 15th annual event with 3 levels, filled to capacity with distinguished guests, supporters, NAN members, elected officials. Many clergy came, and many community leaders were present. The Triumph Awards certainly united everyone to celebrate our culture and our impact. This year's honorees included Kenneth Babyface Edmonds, 13-time Grammy Award-winning singer, songwriter, and producer. Ari Melber, the chief legal correspondent for MSNBC and host of The Beat with Ari Melber. Chesley Maddox Dorsey, CEO of A Wonder Media Company, which is a parent company of American Urban Radio Networks. Pastor Vincent Bohannon, who's the founder and director of Sound of Victory and Victorious Army Choirs, and the pastor of the Winners Assembly in Brooklyn, and Stephanie Mills, who's the Grammy Award-winning singer, songwriter, and Broadway legend, who rose to fame as Dorothy in The Wiz on Broadway. In addition to our honorees, New York City mayoral candidate Assemblymember Zohran Mamdani delivered special remarks at the Triumph Awards, and there was an enthusiastic birthday tribute performance for Reverend Sharpton by artist and vocalist True Osborne. He also introduced 3 members of the Central Park Exonerated 5, who was also in attendance on that evening, Corey Wise, Councilmember Yusef Salam, and Raymond Santana. He also gave a very special shout out to Michael Brown Sr., who was also in the audience, and highlighted how his son's death sparked a movement for change. And I also, while I'm here, wanted to give a shout out, of course, to our very own Gwen Carr, who recently won an Emmy Award for her documentary on her late son, Eric Garner. It won actually 3 Emmy Awards. And so we want to definitely salute our very own queen, mother of Eric Garner, Gwen Carr, on her recent Emmy Award win. And back to NAN's Triumph Awards, it was more than just an event. It was a cultural and social celebration for all of us, our enduring fight for justice and where we go from here. And certainly we thank everyone who came, who supported, and who really really expressed the determination and commitment of holding it down with National Action Network. So we appreciate everyone for being there. We also this week stood with Attorney General Tish James. Reverend Sharpton strongly condemned President Donald Trump's highly politicized indictment of New York State Attorney General Letitia James. He said if he were going to pick an enemy, he picked the wrong one because the strength as well as the eloquence of Tish James will now be on the national stage. And so we are planning a myriad of different actions to stand with New York State Attorney General Tish James, from going to Virginia for her first court date in a couple of weeks, and many other actions to come to stand with her. So please look forward to more information regarding that. Reverend Sharpton also made many appearances this week on Morning Joe, and many other appearances, as I mentioned, in response to New York State Attorney General's Tish James indictment and many other things. DEI protests continue for the 92nd week in a row last week. So this is the 93rd week that we're approaching, and we are looking forward to celebrating the 100th week of our DEI protest. Every single Thursday, we hold our critical protests calling for the preservation of diversity, equity, and inclusion, demonstrating outside the offices of anti-DEA crusader Bill Ackman, where we chant every single Thursday and come together to stand in support and solidarity of keeping DEI alive. So please, if you have not joined us, look forward to that information. And we are quickly approaching our 100th week. So we're looking forward to all that is coming with that and that celebration as we continue to stand on the front lines for change. We also celebrated Reverend Sharpton's 71st birthday. So Rev, who's been on the front lines for many decades, celebrated his 71st birthday. We did a celebratory moment at the Triumph Awards. We also had a great celebratory rally at the House of Justice on last week, Saturday. And certainly thank everyone for their well wishes and their accolades and their gifts and their texts and their calls. And just celebrating in support of Reverend Sharpton and the many years that he's been on the front lines fighting for us. So thank you all for all of your accolades. It meant a lot to Rev, and it meant a lot to just see him smile and celebrate his birthday. So thank you so much for all of your support. All right, that's all I have. Ashley, thank you so much, and I'll turn it back over to you.
All right, so I want to announce our special guest is here. Dr. Jessie Fields is in the building. I want to introduce you briefly, and then I'm going to turn the floor over to President Christian to do your article, and Patrice. We're going to be brief because we don't want to belabor the time. Dr. Jessie Fields is a Harlem physician, community organizer, activist, and poet. Growing up in poverty in the Black community of Philadelphia, she set out on a career to bring better health conditions to poor urban communities. She was awarded a National Public Health Service Corps medical scholarship. She attended Bryan Moore College and the Medical College of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia. She has been a primary care physician in the Harlem community for over 3 decades. In addition to medical care and community organizing, Dr. Fields has been involved in medical education and helping young people from underserved communities pursue careers in medicine. She is currently helping to lead the Committee for Independent Community Action Building, a citywide movement to maintain and improve public housing in New York City. Dr. Fields is leading an initiative, creating our mental health workshops with therapists and performance activists from the East Side Institute. The workshops use poetry to build social connection and bring history and emotion together in group building process. We cannot wait to hear from you shortly, and thank you again for the time, for sparing your time to join us. All right, President Christian, take it away.
Thank you, Ashley, and good evening, everybody. I'm going to be expeditious in my article because we want to hear Dr. Fields, but of course, we're glad to be here even virtually in the midst of this, about to say snow, but in the midst of the rainstorm. And we're glad for wisdom to not go to the House of Justice, but to still have a virtual huddle. So my Did You Know for this evening is dealing with MAGA. MAGA plans to invade HBCU homecomings, what students should do. Now, this is very important because this is homecoming season. And we know that young people are outside during homecoming season, and we want to make sure that our young people are safe And we have already seen some of these folks go to some of these campuses. So this is why we need our young people to pay attention. A new campaign calling itself the Educate to Liberate Tour is preparing to roll out through historical Black colleges and universities this fall, just in time for homecoming season. The tour, backed by Turning Point USA, which was started by Charlie Kirk, and as we know, they and Patrice will talk about that momentarily, and they're doing stuff with Charlie Kirk and all of that we dealt with last month, branded through its back face, Offshot Blexic, which claims it wants to spark dialogue and promote free thought on HBCU campuses. Basically saying that HBCUs don't allow free thought and free actions. And they're using this as their way to promote free speech and free thought on these campuses. But after watching similar operations play out elsewhere, the goal looks less like a debate and learning and more like provocation and more like a political incursion into sacred Black spaces under the auspices of what they are calling outreach. The announcements arrived in the shadow of two flashpoints. I want you to first get this. First, it came after the death, the fatal shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk, which the right-wing media swiftly framed as a martyr and that he was killed because of all of his political beliefs, and that his death is now fueling a wave of right-wing mobilization, which activists are vowing to carry his torch by reclaiming all college campuses throughout the nation, including Black ones. There's also dealing with, as you know, Elon Musk. He also said that after the death of Charlie Kirk, that he had posted something telling people to go back to church, and that because of Charlie Kirk's death, that churches are being revitalized and the numbers are going up into churches. Now, we don't know if that's true or not. We hope everybody, whatever your religious belief is, that you find a house of worship. But here we are. Then, also in late September, a group called the Fearless Debates, a handful of white men in MAGA hats, wielding signs that read DEI should be illegal and deport all illegals now, showed up uninvited at Tennessee State University. Students confronted them, and the campus police escorted them off of the grounds. Within hours, conservatives flooded social media, portraying the encounter as an example of Black intolerance. Groups like Turning Point USA, Fearless Debates, and now Blexic understand that the optics of the economy. They showed up unannounced, stirred tension, filmed the reactions, and packaged the footage for viral consumption. The aim is not dialogue, but it is contempt, and it is an attempt to fuel fury, fire, and action on campuses that are not needed. And so I want to close with this last part of the article. Homecoming season is not just a party, but it is a sacred time. It is when generations return. I want you to hear this. During this time, they celebrate survival, scholarships, and joy, bridging the gap between multiple generations previous and current. If you have gone to school or if you have ever gone to a homecoming, you know that you will see people of all age groups. No matter what school it is, particularly on HBCUs, you will find people that are 80 years old that will still show up to their homecoming like this, their first day on campus. People love homecoming, especially the tailgates. Tailgates are even more fun, but that's different. And those are for folks that are 21 and older. Okay, anyhow, this is what they are doing on the college campuses. And we need you to be aware. We need you to be alert because this is scary. And they are purposely trying to begin basically ways to attack Black schools. And this is their way of doing it by calling it dialogue and saying that they're just going for harmless debates that are actually turning out to be many different other things. Don't just show up unannounced. And even if you're going to come announced, come and be for real. If you're going to want to have a conversation, have a real conversation and don't turn it into no nonsense. So that is the end of my Did You Know? We are praying for all of our folks on college campuses. that you are just safe during this time, and that you're being vigilant and alert. And that's it.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns, statements for Christian? If not, we'll jump into Patrice. All right, Patrice, let's go.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. So, good evening, everyone. And my Did You Know article today kind of boils my blood, but we're going to get into it. The Senate passes Charlie Kirk's Day on George Floyd's birthday. The conservative podcaster was gunned down in September at the Utah College. And they've decided to, which tomorrow, well, let me get to it and then I'll read it. The U.S. Senate has voted to enact a National Day of Remembrance resolution to honor the popular conservative podcaster Charlie Kirk. You guys remember Charlie Kirk after he was killed. Critics take umbrage at the day chosen to honor Charlie Kirk, who was fatally shot on September 15th while speaking to a pro-MAGA crowd and at a Utah Valley University. The Day of Remembrance, listen to this, will take place on October 14th, which happens to be George Floyd's birthday, which some find very offensive. Floyd was murdered by a former police officer, Derek Chauvin, on Memorial Day 2020, when the cop placed the full weight of his knee on Floyd's neck until he suffocated to death. Chauvin was sentenced to 22.5 years in the state prison for the murder and 21 years in federal prison for violating Floyd's civil rights. His sentences are to be served concurrently. Just to be noted that both Floyd, born in 1973, and Kirk, 1993, were born on the same day, 20 years apart. Can you even believe? And tomorrow is actually George Floyd's birthday. So why, I'm going to take a few comments and figure out how you guys feel about it. But I'm literally outraged. But I'll hold my comments to the end. If anyone wants to unmute themselves and give us some comments about this particular day being honored, a racist on the day of George Floyd's birthday. I'm just literally horrified and speechless. Are there any comments about it before I give my thoughts at the end?
Yes,
Well, first-
Ernest Waters. What can we do? What can be done about it?
That's a great question. What do you suggest? I have some thoughts, but I want to hear your thoughts. What do you think we should do about it?
Well, if protesting work for everything else, well, who we gonna protest?
That's the question. And because the Senate passed it already, that's the issue. People voted on that. So we need to hold them accountable. We need to know which senators voted against it and which ones did not. You also right as far as we saw, as far as with the last boycott, the last economic boycott, when people started taking their subscriptions away with Disney, and how quick Jimmy Kimmel was giving his platform right back. We have to do some research. It's not an easy answer, Mr. Waters, because the Senate already passed it. What I suggest is basically using our power, which we have social media. We have platforms. We need to basically flood it with George Floyd. Tomorrow, since it's going to be Charlie Kirk Day, you're going to see it everywhere. You're going to see him everywhere. People are going to be extolling him and making him a hero and whatnot. And I'm not going into if he was a hero or not to me personally, but I know that what they're doing as far as with George Floyd is wrong, and trying to basically now just turn it into basically what they do with everything. And I don't want to take this because we have a whole
All right. Well,
but I feel like we should have his pictures up. We should be telling his story. We should be saying his name. And like I said, we need to hold the senators accountable who voted for Charlie Kirk unanimously, because I don't think there was much pushback on that. I know, Maurice, you had your hand up as well.
Yeah, I want to. Oh, Ernest, you got to mute your computer. Your feedback is coming in at the same time.
Could I say this last thing?
Oh, go for it.
If we take this, everybody has social media on their phones and tablets and computers, and we get some kind of thing, and everybody just send it out, and it goes faster than protesting or anything, because each person has at least 100 people on their devices, and those people have at least 100 people on their devices. So it could go all over the place. All we need is the right words and the right people to tell us the words and spread the word. And we could do it.
Hi, everyone. This is John Royster.
Oh, wait a second.
Thank you so much.
I agree 100% with Ashley's recommendations. It should be obvious that Trump makes a habit of defaming Black accomplishments or Black honorariums. And so this is typical of the way they operate. Anything to cast aspersions or darkness on our Black heroes. And Ashley's recommendation of a media campaign is precisely the way to go. Bring all of our people wherever we can into showing that up for what it is, so that there'll be a trail that, yes, we see this happening all of the time. We understand it's to lower the opinion of Black people. There is no rhyme or reason for it. It's just the venomous white supremacist attitude in which they use to express themselves.
All right, I'll be brief with mine. Now, I think the Charlie Kirk situation speaks to a larger issue that we're having in America right now, which is the rise and the thrust of white supremacy. Now, Charlie Kirk's death was like fortunate for them because he kind of revitalized their whole movement. Nobody has any real reason to like what's going on with Donald Trump and his people. All he's doing is destroying the economy, destroying the country. Even people who voted for him for racist reasons, after a while, that gets old. It's like you can only take but so much racism until you realize, wait, in addition to the racism, he's taken my health care. He's made things more expensive. The value of the US dollar has gone down by 10%. And they are now taking Charlie Kirk and pushing him to the forefront of wherever they can. So in addition to what you guys mentioned, they have also passed legislation telling certain college universities that they need to change their streets to name them Charlie Kirk Way, or else they're going to be taking funding away from them. So most of the colleges now are standing up and saying, hey, we don't want our streets being renamed to Charlie Kirk Way. This guy's not someone deserving of that. They're pushing ridiculous legislation trying to talk about that they need to put him on a coin or something like that, when they wouldn't put Harriet Tubman on the $20 bill like they were planning to do in the first place. Like real heroes, generals who fought for civil rights and got something accomplished. You're here talking about and trying to equivocate and push this racist podcaster up until to the same level as them. And I think it's ridiculous. I think that who we should be celebrating is George Floyd on that particular date. This was somebody who was victimized, who should not have been. He ended up being a symbol for what we will not tolerate, and we overcame that whole issue and got the Derek Chauvin punished and everything like that. I think that we just need to be like, until we get them out of here, we just need to forget about Charlie Kirk and push our heroes to the forefront. That's my 2 cents.
Thank you so much. Any more thoughts on it before I close out with it?
Yes, I want to speak. It's Dan. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
So what I will say is, I'm not very familiar with Charlie Kirk's career path, but what I've learned is that there has been some what seems to be hate language or hate rhetoric or hate theology that Charlie Kirk was associated with. So we should certainly bring that element of what's going on regarding the controversy pertaining to Charlie Kirk's observance and recognition of some of the impacts that he has had to the extent that he is now on what should be honoring George Floyd having some type of recognition. But the caveat to that is there are controversies regarding Charlie Kirk's rhetoric pertaining to things that could negatively impact the African American diaspora and also the civil rights movement. So I think it's important to highlight sections of his speech that prove that he may have, in fact, been speaking in a prejudiced manner, been effectuating racism and potentially calls to action that could be considered harmful at large. So, I want to make sure we are doing our best to organize so that we are supporting the argument as to why Charlie Kirk should not be honored in the way that some may feel is onerous because of his dishonorable rhetoric.
Thank you. Is there any more thoughts on it?
Yeah, one. Ernest Waters here. Okay, every time when they show his picture, I think we should put up a picture of George Floyd and put underneath, he was murdered by the police. And we should, wherever Charlie Kirk's picture is, we put George Floyd and we combat it that way.
Nicely said, Ernest.
Great idea. We can definitely send out some messaging tomorrow. I can definitely email and we can text each other as well. And I'll tell the national as well.
And I just wanted to close it by saying, how we flood the internet with every other thing. Tomorrow on George Floyd's birthday, it should be so many George Floyd posts that they don't even remember who Charlie Kirk is. Because it's not only an insult and a slap in the face, especially because National Action Network was truly involved in making sure that George Floyd's name wasn't taken away. We need to flood it. You know how? In June is Trump's birthday. Do y'all even know when his birthday is? No, because they don't even mention it. They don't even honor that man at all. So we shouldn't, every post that you see about Charlie Kirk tomorrow, we should put up a picture of us and Terrence Floyd, us and Keita and them, all of that. We need to put up videos of NAN, of him, being at the march, Rev at the funeral, asking him at the funeral, all of that. All of that should be flooded on our website tomorrow. Because at the end of the day, it's an insult and a slap in the face. And I really wanted to put on George Floyd's shirt tomorrow and show up somewhere. If you're saying that the Senate passed this, who knew about this? Who knew that they was going to pass something like this? And the nerve of y'all to do it on George Floyd's birthday. You're trying to throw us off by freeing these people from this war as you are putting together something to put this man on a pedestal who talked about nothing but hatred. Like I said, insult. And if we sit back and don't say nothing, I blame us. We got to flood the website, flood the internet tomorrow. It should be nothing but George Floyd. And anywhere you see they post Charlie Kirk, you put George Floyd should be us. You remember at his funeral, his wife yelled, "We are all Charlie Kirk. Tomorrow we are all George Floyd." Let's do it. Amen. Let's tell a friend and tell a family. Post something of George Floyd. If you at National Action Network, there's no way that you haven't been to something that has George Floyd on it. Post a shirt, post a website, post a quote, something. We cannot allow a racist to be celebrated on George Floyd's birthday. We won't let it happen.
Right on.
We can't let it happen.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
That is my Did You Know for
senior
today.
advisor. Dr. Jessie Fields, our special guest. You've been patiently waiting for 20 minutes, so I don't want to hold you up any longer, but I saw you nodding, so that means you were listening to the conversation. It was good.
Absolutely.
But welcome to our huddle up. Welcome to our virtual huddle tonight. We wish we were in person, but there will be more times for that. And I'm just going to turn it over to you. We have the poems on deck and the video, so just let me know when you want to.
Okay, great. I'm so happy about that. I'm glad to be here this evening with you. Glad we were able to do this. I wanted to talk about the questions of social justice and mental health and the impact, the many impacts of racism, of structural racism, racial trauma, etc., oppression on the mental health of our people. And also the centrality of the fight for equality in medical care and opening up new approaches, equal medical rights, equality in medicine, in hospitals and medical centers and clinics, and quality health care for our people and our communities were central parts of the civil rights movement. So this goes right, is very much tied in to the fight for equality, that is equality in all aspects of our lives, including in our health. So I am, yes, in agreement that tomorrow is George Floyd's birthday, October 14th. It should be celebrated and recognized around the world. And I wanted to recognize his family. If Terrence Floyd is here, I wanted to, to recognize the incredible pain that his family has gone through and continues to go through, especially when something like this that we were talking about happens. And the family suffered the pain of a brother, a loved one, being brutally killed by the police. And many others have been brutally killed by the police for decades and decades and decades, if we, going all the way back to the violence against our people that slavery was. And we don't know all of their names. We know some of their names, but this evening, perhaps, I think we could begin to at least talk about and try to somewhat grasp the enormous pain and hurt that brings to the family and to the community at large. So the family suffered, and the families of the victims of police violence, of racial trauma suffer the crime directly, but also the community at large suffers. People who watch the video or read about it, it impacts broadly. And certainly we know that the murder of George Floyd set off an international movement against inequality, against police violence, and that had a big impact. One of the things that I wanted just to say and to stand up alongside with and in support of Reverend Al Sharpton and the National Action Network, who are the people, the organization that stands with those who've suffered from police brutality from the beginning, from when it happens onward. They're not just there when the TV cameras are there, but they're there for the long term. Reverend Sharpton, National Action Network, all of you, Ashley, Dominique, the National Action Network leaders, the community that we represent are there. And that is a very, very important. That's a very important lesson, because the impact of these kinds of experiences, the impact of racism in general on people's mental health is very deep. It's very real. It affects the mental health of, as I was saying, of the overall community and even beyond the community. So this evening is dedicated to understanding the emotional, personal, and mental impacts of social injustice, of racist violence, of police violence, of structural systemic racism. It has a major impact on the family, on the community, and it has been shown, there have been studies, when incidents like these happen in communities, rates of depression and anxiety go up. And so the risk of being killed by the police is 2.5 times greater for Black men than for white men. And the effects of these killings ripple from the individual victim and their families, the local communities, and people have to cope with the permanence, oftentimes, of the injury and of the loss. And it's been found, as I was saying, that there are higher rates of depression and psychological stress and emotional stress as a result of of this violence, of this racist violence, and this racism and the pain. The pain does not stop with after the incident itself. It affects Black people far away from the immediate site of the killing, people who have never met the victim. Evidence shows that many Black people across the United States experience police killings of other Black people as traumatic events, and that trauma can impact on the ability of communities to thrive. And there have been several studies about this that have been published in medical journals, and there was a study looking at the impact of the stop and frisk in New York City, which had a big impact. And this kind of distress, in particular, the emotional impact of this violence, things like stop and frisk on people, just seeing it or witnessing it, that impact was particularly experienced by Black people. It really did not seem to cause suffering and the kind of emotional impact among white people. And one of the impacts was especially devastating if the crime, the violent crime, such as happened with George Floyd, and it was a tragedy and a crime, as Reverend Sharpton pointed out. The fact that Chauvin actually was held accountable, was imprisoned, makes a big difference. The impact is even greater on people when there's no accountability, when the person gets off, which has happened many, many times. So emergency room departments records show increases in people suffering from mental health problems when these things occur. Black women experience the acute fear that their children will be harmed by the police. So this has a big impact on women in the community, mothers, and on young people. Young people are at higher risk of having negative police experiences and were 12 times more likely to report symptoms of depression after these things happen. And also pregnant women also have been shown to, found to have higher incidences of distress, of emotional distress and depression when this kind of racist violence occurs and is widely known about and experienced really from a distance. Depression during pregnancy increases the risk of health problems for both the parent and the child. And so we have to, I think, be able to support each other. One of the things I want to talk about is the initiative called Creating Our Mental Health, which is not just an initiative, but it's an attempt to help our people to support each other. One of the most important things that folks can do when there's violence, when there's harm, when people are hurt, when there's pain, is to come together, to listen to each other, to talk to each other, and to share, not to go off by oneself or be alone with this pain. And I think that's very important. And I wanted to be sensitive to what we're talking about and to give people the space to express the need for support, for comfort. The exposure to police violence and racial discrimination can trigger fear, anxiety, depression, hopelessness. Immediately after these things happen and also lasting for months or even longer. It causes significant and cumulative harm to Black youth, leading to a range of negative mental health outcomes like anxiety, like post-traumatic stress disorder, as well as physical problems. Our emotionality is really inseparable from our physical health. Our physical and emotional health are inseparable. And sometimes there are physical consequences that occur. And so we have to deal with both at the same time. and it also may impact on people's self-esteem, their ability to be proud and out as African Americans, as Black people, as our communities. So there are many different forms of mental challenges and illnesses and challenges that occur in terms of mental health. And we want to be sensitive to what we're talking about. There's post-traumatic stress disorder, which is a mental health condition that can develop after experiencing or witnessing a traumatic event. Traumatic events that can trigger this PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, include natural disasters, accidents, witnessing violence, sexual assault, and it can cause, people to have flashbacks, increased anxiety and irritability, difficulty sleeping, interfering with, being able to function, being able to go to work. And there are different forms of therapy. I'm trying to increase our ability in our community, in our churches, in our homes, in our community centers, to embrace each other and to be open to talking about these things. I lead a monthly virtual Creating Our Mental Health group with a social therapy psychiatrist and a licensed clinical social worker and myself. This is Creating Our Mental Health started before the pandemic in about 2015, and I've been very much led to be involved in this work through my work with Dr. Lenore Fulani, who is a developmental psychologist, was very close with Reverend Al Sharpton, and she was doing social therapy, mental health groups at 125th and 5th Avenue in one of the brownstones there for many years, and promoting social therapeutics, which is a different approach. It's mostly group oriented, and it helps people to build with the trauma, to build connection and to grow, to be able to be bigger, more worldly, to be able to participate in the movements and to speak up and talk about what they're going through, to come together. And we have some examples of some social therapeutics. After the pandemic, I started doing these workshops using creativity, using poetry, theater exercises, music, and I wanted to read some of the poems that we use to help people make connection and build community. It's amazing what people learn and how close folks can get and how meaningful our history, our spirituality, and having that, together, sharing it and building with it is just really very, very valuable, very rich. So there's lots of different forms of therapy, and people are different, and they have to find the form of therapy that works for them. But I think in general, sharing, not isolating, is critical. There's a therapy called play therapy, which is using play. Play has been found to be important for not only children, but also for adults to continue to be able to play, to be creative throughout our lives. Of course, there's family therapy, individual therapy, group therapy. There are different resources. And I have been working on making a list. I think folks probably know if there's immediate distress and anxiety, depression, or even leading to people thinking about suicide. For people who need immediate assistance and immediate support and help, there is a phone number that can be called. There are other resources. I've called this number to find out, if it was real, if it was really helpful, if it's available, and it's 988. And they not only help people who may be going through an immediate emergency crisis, but they also can help you refer to gain referrals to ongoing therapy. And they also have a line besides that 988 line. You can call. There's a line for people who speak Spanish, for Spanish language, which I have here, and you can also use that number not only for emergencies but also for follow-up mental health care. There's different therapies. One is cognitive behavioral therapy, which is learning how to approach your problems working with a therapist and figuring out ways of approaching the problem, exercises you can do. So there's a lot of different therapies. I want to encourage not only that we need to have available to us the best in psychotherapy, but also that I think we can create new forms of therapy. Medicine is very institutionalized and structured, and if you don't have insurance, you have a very hard time getting access. That's a big problem for our people in our communities, and it's becoming even worse because, as we know, of the Trump administration cutting Medicaid, cutting Medicare. You know, his one of the centerpieces of his administration is anti-Black. He is simply absolutely anti-Black, despicable, horrible as as he is, and all the things that he's doing. We want to stand up. We have so much in our ancestry, in our spirituality, in our poetry, in our people like Reverend Sharpton, Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Fannie Lou Hamer, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth, and many, many, many more. Folks whose words we need to quote as we come up with our own languages and poetry. One of the poets that I celebrate and often work with in the workshops is Langston Hughes. And the poem that I wanted to read, should we put it up? So I'll read a few poems and then I can introduce the video and we could show the video and then open up. So this is the poem Harlem. Thank you, Ashley. What happens to a dream deferred? Does it dry up like a raisin in the sun, or fester like a sore and then run? Does it stink like rotten meat, or crust and sugar over like a syrupy sweet? Maybe it just sags like a heavy load, or does it explode? And then, so, you know, Langston walked the streets that we walk in Harlem. He lived in Harlem. And his poetry, which I have another one, which I'd like to read and then do another poem, and then we can show the video. So Langston Hughes wrote the poem, "The Negro Speaks of Rivers," when he was like 18 years old. It was one of his first poems. He dedicated it to W.E.B. Du Bois. It was published in The Crisis, which Du Bois was editing. And when we do this poem in the workshop, we perform the poem. I work with Alan Cox, who's a performance activist, community health advocate, a longtime friend and colleague of Dr. Filani and of mine. And we often will perform. I have the longer poem that we'll do that is going to be performed for us on the video. But this poem is very, very, you just want to move to it. It's just, "The Negro Speaks of Rivers" by Langston Hughes. I've known rivers. I've known rivers ancient as the world and older than the flow of human blood in human veins. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. I bathed in the Euphrates when dawns were young. I built my hut near the Congo, and it lulled me to sleep. I looked upon the Nile and raised the pyramids above it. I heard the singing of the Mississippi when Abe Lincoln went down to New Orleans, and I've seen its muddy bosom turn all golden in the sunset. I've known rivers, ancient dusky rivers. My soul has grown deep like the rivers. We've performed this poem in workshops at St. Philip's Church, in the sanctuary of the church, and also on 125th Street. We did where there was an outdoor summer festival, and we did a workshop outside, and we performed the poem. And then the next poem, "My Feet is Tired, but My Soul is Rested," Dr. King and Marching Feet. This is a poem I wrote in honor of the Dr. King holiday this year in January 15th, which was his actual birthday. My feet is tired, but my soul is rested. Mother Pollard, 1955, during the Montgomery bus boycott. Dr. King and marching feet. These are quotations from Dr. King's speeches. The road that leads from Montgomery to this place, the road that leads from Montgomery to this place right here, right now with us on Zoom, from Montgomery to Birmingham, from Birmingham to Selma, from Selma back to Montgomery, a trail wound in a circle long and often bloody. Yet it has become a highway up from darkness, a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. There are those who tell me that I should stick with civil rights and stay in my place. We were convinced that we could not limit our vision. This is a calling that takes me beyond national allegiances. It may well be that the world is in dire need of a new organization, the International Association for the Advancement of Creative Maladjustment, like creating our mental health. In the face of unrelenting violence, Dr. King arrayed the all, here, and now heart of creative maladjustment. We mourn his death and celebrate his life. Martin Luther led the march. People across the world followed. The pattern of their feet as they walk through barriers is the thunder of the marching of Joshua, and the world rocks beneath their tread. His vision eternal, he watches still. The battle is in our hands. Tremor the centuries' chains. Stand with the poor. Stand with the outcasts. Stand with the righteous as the radiant star of hope with the play of possibilities. See anew. Remember. Hold it all close. His voice, the dense fabric of history. Carry. His voice, the dense fabric of history, carry as we rise and gather onward. I wanted to also pay tribute to Mother Ivy, and this poem in honor of her is Mother Ivy gave us a gift last Saturday at the National Action Network during the What's on Your Mind segment. She spoke about her father being one of the over 600, over 380 approximately men who had syphilis. There were 600 Black men in that study in Alabama that lasted from 1932 to 1972, 40 years, in which the U.S. Department of Public Health did this experiment on Black men in Alabama, watching them to gain, this experiment on learning how syphilis would advance when it's untreated. In 1942, penicillin became available, and it was widely available, but the men were not treated. They were not treated, and syphilis was passed on from them to their wives and their children. And Miss Ivy, Mother Ivy, spoke about this, that her father was in the study, and she has congenital syphilis, and she spoke to me afterwards. So we want to pay tribute and give love to Mother Ivy. We're all directly connected to what happened to our people in the southern states, and what happened in the northern states. Racism was national and is international. But I was so moved by her sharing that story with us on Saturday. And I think we should recognize her and just honor her and love her. And we're directly connected, and we want to speak out. I mean, this is talk about injustice in the medical field. This is one example, and there are others: racism in medicine, Henrietta Lacks, and so many others. But there are 19 children who acquired genital syphilis through this untreated study of not treating, experimenting on Black men over these decades. And our dear mother Ivy is one of those women who gave us that story on Saturday. So the next poem is a poem, my poetic take on development. I'd like to do that one and then show the video, if that's okay. So we'll skip this one for now. This is a great poem, but my poetic take on development by The Gift Chikere. The Gift Chikere, that's her name. She's a woman who lives in Nigeria, and I've learned about her work through the Eastside Institute, which does a lot of virtual. It's of work virtually, and people can come from all over the world. It's where I have studied social therapeutics, and Dr. Fulani is a founder of the Eastside Institute, working along with Lois Haltman and others. And by the way, I just wanted to say that speaking about Dr. Fulani, she is deeply loved and is being well cared for by her adult children. She actually has a medical condition, which is dementia, which is a mental health condition. And she is with us in spirit, but she obviously can't do the things that she used to do. We're carrying on. And I speak to her frequently. I'm on her medical team, and she's, I share Reverend Sharpton's love and Nan's love with her, and she returns it. She returns your love, and she's with us in spirit. She very much is proud of all of our work and our continuing, her work and Reverend Sharpton's work and so forth, and our movements. So I just wanted to share that. I think it's appropriate to this conversation. So the poem, My Poetic Take on Development. It's written by a poet, an activist, a performance artist from Nigeria. Her name is The Gift Chikere. Her mother named her The Gift, and she is a gift. And this is a poem that we've done many times in the workshops. We perform it. There are parts you can see that you can perform. And I wanted to particularly read it before we show the video. And The Gift is working with the Eastside Institute, and she wrote this poem about development, human development and growth, which is central to the work of social therapeutics, helping people to grow, to have more in their lives, to be bigger, to be outgoing, to speak up, and to deal with the challenges of mental illness and to improve and grow their mental health and mental well-being. So I'm going to read the poem and perform it somewhat, and then we'll watch the video. Sound good? Okay, all right. My Poetic Take on Development by The Gift Chikere. What is development? What is development if not the slow stretch of self, the honest work of unbecoming, falling apart, and then becoming again? If not the trembling moments when a girl with questions grows into a woman with a voice, one that no longer asks for permission to be loud, to be art, to be here. I've lived it, we've lived it, in the stillness after grief, in the breaking open of silence, in the way my people shape possibility out of dust and dare to call it home. Lois says it's not just progress, it's performance, not a finish line, but a dance, a dialogue, a doing that sits with us like a rhythm we've always known but didn't have the language for. Because we've seen healing walk into a room wearing community. We've watched boys and girls with broken mothers and broken fathers find their future in the lines of a poem. I've seen my own growth, not in titles, but in tears, not in applause, but in the quiet knowing that something shifted because I and we showed up whole. So yes, development is who we are and who we are daring to become. It's every time we pick up a mic or a pen or speak, not to impress, but to ignite. Every time we sit in a circle or in a Zoom room and let our stories breathe next to one another's. Every time we choose to stay soft in a hard place, to speak when silence feels safer, to build with bare hands what systems have torn apart. This is development, not a GDP, but growth, not the noise of numbers, but the music of meaning, the art of healing. If hope is a place, then we're learning to live there, to make my work, to make our work a window and a life, a light, and our lives a light, to make our art a voice others can speak through. Because I believe, and I believe we believe, that we're not just surviving, we're becoming, growing together, daily as one. Thank you. So why don't we show the video, and then we can open up for conversation. Enjoy the video.
Is it good?
Maybe you want to share sound. I think
Oh, sorry.
I think the
Can you hear
sound.
me? No?
The honest work of becoming and becoming again.
Can you hear it?
Trembling moments when the
Now we hear it, but it sounds kind of low. Weird.
Yeah, it sounds kind of low.
one that no longer asks permission to be art, to be light, to be here.
It should. I don't think the video is playing. I think just the sound.
In the stillness of my room, grieving my mother's.
Yeah, the video is not playing. The sound is playing, but it sounds like it's in the background. It doesn't sound like. Maybe you need to change the function.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So it's this one. Sorry.
Steps.
If you make me a co-host, I could try and.
Yep, I will do that too.
Okay, let's try it. Let me get it up here.
Hold on, let me make you a co-host. Sorry. Yeah, I can keep going.
Let's see. What is
What is development?
You got it?
I'm working on it.
Share sound. Okay, let's try this again. We'll do it one more time.
I got. Let me know if you want me to play.
You got it?
I have the so I need to go on share screen, right?
Wait, can you guys see it?
Yes,
I
ma'am.
see it.
Can you hear it? Hold on.
So now we don't hear anything.
Nothing? Can you hear it?
I can't really see the video, but I did Google it myself. I found it. I'll send it to you directly. Actually,
And
maybe.
I don't. Can you hear the video?
No, the video is not playing. We don't hear it.
There's no sound.
What
yet. What
is
about now?
development?
I can hear it.
If not
Thank
the
you.
slow stretch of self. The honest work of becoming and becoming again. The trembling moments when a girl with questions grows into a woman with no voice. One that no longer asks permission to be art, to be loud, to be here. I have lived it. In the stillness of my room, grieving my mother's death. In the breaking open of silence. In the way my people choose to find possibilities in the dust and dare to call it home. Lloyd says it's not just progress. I say it as performance. It's not a finished line. It's a dance. A dialogue. A doing. A doing that sits well with me like a rhythm I've always known but do not have the language for. Because I have seen healing walk into a room dressed in community. I have seen boys with broken fathers find their future. I have seen dreams with tired feathers take flight. I have seen my own growth, not in titles, but in tears. Not in the aimless pursuit of passion, but in pain. Not in the applause of society, but in the knowing that something shifted within me because I chose to show up daily. Oh. So yes, development is who we are and what we are doing to become. It's every time I choose to grab a mic and a pen, not to impress, but to ignite. It's every time I choose to speak when silence feels safer. It's every time I choose to build with my hands what society has crumbled. It's not about noise. It's the music of meaning, the art of healing. That my work might become a beacon of hope, my life a light. For we were not just placed on earth to merely exist and survive, but to become daily together as one.
Great. We could hear it. We could email it to everybody and folks can watch it if they couldn't see it, but okay. Great. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. So we could open up. Should we have conversation, discussions, questions, responses?
Yes, please. The floor is open. If you want to speak, just raise your hand, and you're a co-host, Ms. Justice, so you can choose who you'd like to speak to.
Hi. Hello, everybody. So I want to first just give thanks. I know we're supposed to give thanks to God first and what have you, but I'd like to give thanks to Sister Fields, Dr. Fields, for her wonderful work, for her life. Sister Ashley mentioned, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Thank you.
Sister Ashley gave us your biography. I didn't know I knew you was powerful, but I didn't know you was that, and I remember talking to you one time, you spoke about the poverty and drugs and stuff like that. And it was very sobering, the stuff you told me and stuff like that. And I want to also give thanks for Christian Matthew, Ashley, Stewart, Dominique, and just say hello to the whole NAN family, because I consider you a family now. And I just wanted to say that I want to say that what Christian talked about earlier about the the black colleges were invaded by these white folks after this Charlie Kirk was slaughtered, and just the blatant disrespect that we suffer. It makes you wonder where's our beginning and where's the middle and where's the ending, because there's no this thing with the Senate talking about they approved Kirk Day. No, I didn't get the memo. I mean, how many of y'all in the audience actually knew, and stuff? So the blatant disrespect, as if we don't even exist, is enough to drive anybody crazy. And so I'm not going to be too long-winded, but I will say this, that I remember one time I had said that it's amazing how you don't see dead bodies everywhere when it comes to black folk lashing out, because we suffer so much, we tolerate so much. I was looking at this lady she's a minister, white lady, and I just turned the TV and she happened to be on, and she made a statement. Her father was molesting her as a child. He raped her through like a lot of her childhood. And she had made a statement yesterday, I will not live in fear.
Mm.
And when I watched her say that, I said to myself, I says, Crystal, I'm not going to live in fear no more. After seeing her say that, I said, I'm not going to live in fear, because I'm going through something right now that's very dangerous. It's very dangerous. I don't know what it was, why these particular people are afraid of me, that they think I don't need to be here no more, but I will not live in fear. I'm going to say that. And I want to say that for us to have an opportunity to speak now, for this whole forum to even take place.
Mm.
This is the beginning of something, because if we continue to not be able to express ourselves, then that's not good. That's not a good fit. We are not going to be here. Now, somebody might say, oh, that's ridiculous. There's 290 gazillion billion black folk on the planet or whatever, and all this kind of thing here. But if we continue in the road we're going, we are not going to be here. Because you look at this Mrs.
Crystal, I don't want to. Is there a
That's
question?
it. That's
That's
it.
Okay.
Let others talk. Okay, so I'll stop there. Can I squeeze in one little piece about this
Mississippi? You have a question for Dr. Fields?
Yeah, it's not a question, but it's a comment about this shooting, this Mississippi, South Carolina, North Carolina, and Mississippi. There was the what they call it, the homecoming. What Christian was talking about, the homecoming celebrations that's going on. These shootings keep popping up with these homecomings. It was on the news this weekend, and I just wanted to throw that in there. There's something foul going on, and even the TV is not even talking about it. The TV is not. They mentioned it, but they're not. You know how they do when there's a what they call them shootings. When there's a mass shooting, they go into length. They're not even doing that. And I just want to say thank you, just for this forum tonight, and I'll stop there.
Thank you, Crystal. I appreciate our having this conversation. And yes, there's a lot of violence. It's, in America and around the world. But we are nonviolent in terms of we think we can accomplish a great deal through building community, bringing people together and in a positive way. So thank you. That's all I'm saying.
Patrice or Maurice?
You want to go first, Patrice, or you want me to go first?
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You can go.
All right. First off, Dr. Fields, thank you for the work that you do. And I'd like to thank all those mental health professionals for the work that they do also. They provide invaluable services. Your speech was great tonight. You informed us all of a lot of things that we didn't know about, and thank you for that. Loved your poetry and all of that. Now, I want to just give a general overview of my view of the whole mental health crisis that we have going on right now, and the way that it's viewed from the Black perspective and the way that it's viewed from other perspectives. I feel like when our community is going through a mental health crisis, or when we are the subject of mental health issues, it's used kind of as a weapon against our community. This is just from general observations and stuff like that. So what I've noticed is that in little children and stuff like that, with certain behaviors that happen in our community, like if we have children at a young age that are hyper or something like that, I feel like the schools are more likely to foist medicine on them or say that they have ADHD or recommend, hey, this kid is out of control, he has a mental issue or something like that. Whereas in other communities where you have naturally hyper little 5-year-old children or something like that, like let's say in a white community or something like that, mental health would never be the first weapon or the first thing. They're not going to just foist medicine on them. I feel like, again, same thing with like the opioid crisis or something like that. When it's our community that was suffering from crack and drugs and all of these other kind of things, it was, hey, lock them up. These people are dangerous criminals. They're animals. Throw them up, lock them up, throw away the key. Now that the demographics have shifted and it is no longer us who is under the crisis or something like that, we're relabeling it. Well, this is the opioid crisis and these people need help. It's inhuman to throw them in jail or whatever. So, I mean, I think that it's great that we are now looking at mental health the way that we're looking at it. But make no mistake, I don't want it to be used as a weapon against us and as a crutch for other people. Even if you look at the mass school shootings that are taking place right now and public shootings, we have a white supremacist gun problem in this country. And every time it's a white person who comes out and starts shooting up people or shooting up schools, I feel like the narrative is slowly trying to push to be like, well, what kind of mental issue was this person going through? This person was a war veteran who had a mental health issue or something like that. Whereas when it's one of us who does something bad, I feel like the knee-jerk reaction is to look, well, he had marijuana in the past. Or even when we're a victim, we're taking it a step further. Like you have people like Trayvon Martin who get shot. You are clearly the victim by some vigilante. There's no reason to do it at all. Instead of recognizing that this person is a victim and looking at him as a victim, we immediately look, well, he did drugs in the past. So, it's like we're trying to justify their death. So I don't like the way that it is once again used as a weapon against us and as a crutch for other certain communities. If we're going to view it one way, then let's view it that way for both sides. But I don't think that we should be viewed as like a mental health problem, but then the other side should be viewed as like, oh, well, this is a mental health issue and we need to help them. Even responding to things. Like I've seen videos of people where they're like someone calls and says, okay, this person is having a mental health emergency. Send police over here to help, not to kill the person. When it's a white individual wielding a knife, wielding whatever, they can always stop that person without killing them. There's like, we can talk you down, we can do bait and switch, we can tase you or something. The person always leaves with like their life in hand. And then I feel like when it's a black person who calls police for the same reason, like we had that video of the woman with the water or something like that. They order her to do that. Go take that pot of water off the stove. She goes there following their directions and ends up getting shot in the head by some police officer. Like, I just think people need to keep the same energy on both sides. That's my 2 cents on this.
Thank you, Maurice. I appreciate what you're saying there. So 3 responses. One is that, yes, there has been a great deal, it's structural in medicine, in the institution of medicine, of racism from the very beginning, during enslavement and continuing. And, the overdiagnosis of schizophrenia in African Americans, which has been documented, the lack of access to kidney transplants, and on and on and on. The racism in medicine has a long history, and it is ongoing, and we have to stand up to it, expose it, challenge it, fight against it. One of the things, and in terms of the response, so Black Lives Matter, after the killing of George Floyd, that whole movement that grew, around the world to fight back, the Black Lives Matter, all of that, you know what I'm talking about, that great moment when all these corporations committed to DEI and so forth. And now we see how superficial that was, and what's happening now. So some very important movements that we need to continue started. One of them was to respond to crises, especially in the Black community, with help, not with the police. So Walter Wallace, I'm from Philadelphia, I'm from West Philly, and Walter Wallace is a young man who he had a mental health issue. He had a diagnosis, he was on medication. His family called the police because he was having a breakdown, and they came and they killed him. They do that. I mean, that just happened in New York by somebody who's in one of our, a young woman in one of our therapy groups. This incident, this happens like on a daily basis. We have to keep exposing it. And there was a movement that was developing after the murder of George Floyd to respond to these emergencies with help, with social work, with professionals, not with the police, unless that's really necessary. So these are positive things that we have to continue. And the movement that I'm part of and am trying to grow is to bring medical care from the bottom up, from the community, invested in the community, following the leadership of the African American, Black communities of color, of the poor, and having them be full partners in developing new approaches. So I think that makes a difference. But everything you said is absolutely the case, is unfortunately the reality. Thank you for your.
Hi, Dr. Phil. So,
hi, Patrice.
As always, thank you for an amazing presentation. I have a question. So just for the broader audience that's listening and watching, how do you encourage, as we say, our people, to be okay with going for therapy, or be okay with allowing, to talk to someone? Because sometimes it's just like a stereotype in our community, especially, when people say, oh, I have to go talk to a therapist, or I need a therapist, and then people deem them to be like crazy, and oh, you gotta, you're a crazy person. But sometimes just speaking to someone, and definitely dealing with the crisis work at National Action Network, sometimes it just take, and this comes from the words of rest in peace attorney Michael Hardy, but he used to tell me that, Patrice, sometimes 5 minutes of a person, you just listening to them, sometimes will take them off the edge. So my question to you as a doctor, and I'm always honored to be in your presence, but what would you encourage people, young people, seasoned people listening to this Zoom today and listening to it in the future? What would you encourage them to do if they really feel like they need therapy? Do you encourage them to do it? Do you encourage them to talk to somebody? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, different people, I try to find out where the person's coming from, what their needs are, because everybody is unique. But in general, I do encourage, I will listen. I mean, I see patients every day, and I try not to be so organized by having, a certain amount of time and perhaps having people wait, but to tell myself to listen. Like I saw someone who was having some really serious challenges in her family with her young child, a young Black woman, and I knew she was really in distress. She was upset, and I had to listen to her. I just listened. Sometimes if you don't even say very much, but you're just with the person in there and not trying to calm them down or reassure them or give them a positive outlook, but just be with them with their pain, with their upsetness, with their challenge. I think that's very helpful to people. I think it's a kind of different kind of sense of spirituality and togetherness, because medicine, it says, I will help you, I will cure you. Well, you can't. People have to be involved in their care, in their recovery, in their growth, and you can partner with them and be there beside them and let them, some people they really are going through some painful things, and you can't, in a way, and you don't want to diminish the pain, diminish the trauma of what the families go through, what the Floyd family has gone through. But you can be there. You can share it with them. Sometimes I read poems to people. But when folks are thinking of how do you encourage people to, yes, make that step, I invite people to the workshops that I do. And a lot of times you do want to listen because people have legitimate concerns about going to a mental health professional. I mean, given the racism, some of the things that Maurice was talking about, given the stereotypes, some people have had very bad experiences with psychiatrists, and they don't want to see that. And they're looking for a person of color. A lot of people are asking me, do you know any Black psychiatrists or Black psychologists? Well, there is an association of Black psychologists, and I try to share that information. I had a flyer. Yeah, there are associations, and sometimes even the Black professionals may be out of reach financially for many of our people. The fees are too much. They don't take Medicaid, et cetera. But there are some forms of access. I was making a list of different accessible forms of therapy. So I try to be with the person and support them and encourage them to make the next step if they want to do that. But I do recognize that there are legitimate concerns, and not all therapy is welcoming for our people. Some of it is very stereotyped, some of it is very, very strict, off-putting, and there is what I'm talking about, and folks don't want to go, and they don't find that it's helpful. And people, medications, a lot of psychiatry basically these days is geared and organized and focused on prescribing medications. A lot of people want to they want to grow, they want to change, they want to transform. They don't want to just take a medication that sedates them or puts them under control, but they want more than just a medication, or medications have side effects. I think I try to deal with the person who's in front of me and figure if I can help them, if I can. and stay in touch with them. And Mount Sinai has a behavioral health service. And Mount Sinai is not perfect either, but they have a center in Harlem on 124th Street. I have information which I'd be happy to share with you and others. And there are the workshops. One of the things that I'm trying to do also is to encourage people to talk together. The network in mental health was doing a lot with families, that families can work together in the community to help people. That if you can do in your living room some of the things that we do in our workshops. You can read someone a poem, you can listen to music with someone, you can dance, you can talk about what spirituality means to you and how it helps you. You can invite them to events, to National Action Network, which is Saturday morning is truly uplifting in a lot of ways, and you can use that as the beginning of networking. Probably one of the most dangerous things for people who are having mental health or emotional challenges is isolation, is being by themselves. Social